Just moments ago, I accepted a delivery order. My task was to pick up the order from the drugstore and deliver it to Jubilee Heights, a gated community. I was about a mile away from the drop-off location when I saw the order details. The customer, Ms. Irina Upton, had purchased special protection product and added a note, saying, "Please deliver it within 30 minutes. You'll be getting an additional tip." Thanks. It was noon. Were they in such a rush? I recently started working as a delivery person, keeping it a secret from my husband Edgar Graham. It was now my 5th day on the job, and I'd gotten accustomed to the delivery process. After riding the electric scooter for about 15 minutes, I arrived at Jubilee Heights. The security guards didn't stop me, so I rode right to the delivery address, Block 18, Unit 802. I was familiar with this unit. Edgar and I once rented it 7 years ago. When I knocked on the door, it was answered almost immediately. The first thing that I saw was an extremely familiar blue shirt. Its buttons were undone, and it hung askew on its wearer, who wore the face that greeted me each morning. 5 hours ago, the owner of that face had given me a loving kiss and said, "I'm heading off to work now. Love you, Celia." But now, he was standing in someone else's house with a young, attractive woman nestled in his arms, her own wrapped around his waist. Both of them turned to me at the same time. I froze up, my mind going blank. For a few seconds, it felt as if the world had disappeared around me. "Is that my order?" The woman's voice pulled me back to reality. Holding in the shock I felt, I glanced at Edgar. He didn't recognize me. I was wearing my yellow delivery uniform with a face mask and a cap. He wouldn't have expected me to turn up here. "Hello. Are you Ms. Irina Upton who placed an order to be delivered to Block 18, Unit 802? I asked, purposely disguising my voice. "Yeah, that's me. Here's your order. Please give me a good rating," I said robotically before swiftly turning away, afraid that I might burst into tears if I stuck around any longer. Confronted with evidence of Edgar cheating on me, I instinctively chose to flee. Even I had to scorn myself for being so pathetic. When my mind went into freeze mode for those few seconds, all I could think about was my 4-year-old son, Nate Graham. I needed to keep my wits about me. After leaving the building, I sat on a bench in the garden out front and started a video call with Edgar. It rang for ages before he finally took the call. He was standing in front of a white wall and was busy buttoning up his shirt. "What is it? Did something happen?" Edgar asked. His voice sounded a little raw and hoarse. Clearly, my call had interrupted them while they were getting things on. Worried that I would be disturbing him, I rarely called him during the middle of the day. I only did it if I had something urgent to talk to him about. "It's nothing. I just missed you and wanted to see what you were doing," I replied. Edgar shot a glance at someplace off screen. He looked a little nervous. "I'm out having lunch with my colleague. I'll be heading back to the office soon." "I see. Well, I won't keep you any longer then," I said with a forced smile. "Once I get home from work, I'll take you and Nate out for some seafood tonight," Edgar said, his tone as gentle as ever. The call ended. Even though it was over 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside, I felt chilled to the bone. When I saw how easily he lied to me, I had to wonder just how long he'd been tricking me. He was even doing it in the house we once lived in. Just then, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. Was I going to get a divorce? Of course, but now wasn't the best time to start the proceedings. My rational side was telling me that if I filed for divorce right away, I wouldn't be getting custody of Nate. The party with greater financial stability always had a bigger chance of being awarded custody. I didn't care to know why Edgar had cheated on me. Perhaps he merely craved some novelty, or maybe it was the thrill that excited him. Either way, from the moment he put his arms around that woman, I knew he'd abandoned our marriage and the promises he once made. As usual, I picked Nate up from kindergarten and took him home. Soon after that, Edgar came home. He looked a little tired. As soon as he entered the house, he hugged me and buried his head against my neck. Work was exhausting today, but now that I have you in my arms, I feel energized again. He had to be exhausted. After all, he'd exerted himself in bed during lunchtime. I quietly pushed him away and pretended to sniff him. "Why does it seem like I can smell a woman's scent on you?" Edgar stiffened, but he swiftly brushed me off with a smile. "Impossible. I'm a married man. No other woman can even get near me. His righteous declaration made me feel like laughing. In the past, I thought this was his way of reassuring me. But now that I knew the full story, I could see he was just trying to hide his guilt. Nevertheless, I didn't confront him about it. The time wasn't right for that yet. Over the next few days, when Edgar was fast asleep, I did what many women who got cheated on did. I checked all of his texts and transaction records on his phone. Every month, he would transfer his salary to me, leaving only a portion behind for him to use on our mortgage and some of his other daily expenses. I found nothing amiss in his call logs or text records. He had always been a careful, meticulous man. For the time being, I was stumped, so I went online to look for more information about other cases of divorces that involved a cheating spouse. At last, I remembered seeing the purchase record for the phone he bought last year. At the time, he said he bought it for his mom, and I didn't ask any further. However, when we went back to his hometown during the holidays, I saw the phone his mom was using. It wasn't the one he bought. He had another phone I didn't know about. On Friday night, we were clearing the table after dinner when he got a call. I picked up from the bits and pieces I heard that it was a work call. Ever since he got a promotion, he started getting a lot more work-related calls. In the past, I never checked his phone because he would never hide from me whenever he answered his calls or texts. He would even volunteer information about what happened at the office and discuss his work with me. Once the call was over, he said to me somewhat apologetically, "The company just told me they need me to go on a last-minute business trip. We just closed a major deal recently, and I need to head over there to keep an eye on things for 2 weeks. All right, I'll pack your suitcase for you later." Edgar went to play a puzzle game with Nate, but he looked a little distracted. Ever since I knew he was cheating on me, it felt as if I'd developed a sixth sense. I could always detect the slight changes in his expression. I asked, "Whatever happened to that new intern you mentioned the last time?" Edgar, who was holding a puzzle piece, visibly stiffened. He pondered for a while before replying, "Well, like all young people, she got better after a bit of mentoring." Well, he wasn't wrong. I bet she became a lot better to work with after getting mentored in bed. I was clutching the shirt in my hands so tightly that it nearly tore apart. Reining in the rage I felt, I remarked, "Edgar, why don't I try to get a job at your company? I can learn on the job just like any other college graduate." Edgar was just about to stand up when he heard that and accidentally bumped into the table beside him. Was he panicking? He picked Nate up to hide his flustered reaction. "Celia, you should know that my company has high standards. Plus, who will pick Nate up from kindergarten if you start working? I can't bear to see you working so hard either." There he went again. Throughout the last 4 years, he kept using Nate as the main excuse to keep me tied to the house. First, he said Nate was still young and couldn't be separated from me. He also said he would be worried if we relied on his mom to move in and care for Nate on our behalf. When Nate was old enough to start talking, Edgar said that a child's formative years were critical, and we needed to ensure he was given the proper guidance. He claimed that if I personally taught Nate, Nate would surely be a great student in the future. Hiring a nanny wouldn't be as good as raising him myself. Once upon a time, I assumed this was his way of taking care of me and expressing his concern for me. Thinking about it now, I realized that little by little, I, a talented college graduate who'd won scholarships before, had allowed him to slowly eradicate all of my own dreams and goals in life. I didn't argue with him. I knew that if I did, he would launch into a long tirade of all the reasons why he was right. Seeing how I remained quiet, Edgar continued, "Why don't we have a second child? That way, you won't feel bored when Nate is off at kindergarten. Nate is such a smart boy. Wouldn't it be great if we gave him a younger sibling to keep him company?" He was suggesting that we have another child. Edgar knew full well that I had to be bedridden for 5 months before I gave birth to Nate. The doctor had said I had a weak constitution. Pregnancy was even riskier for me. I felt as though I'd been stabbed in the heart. What a selfish and shameless husband I had. The more he didn't want to let me join his company, the more he seemed guilty. I bet he couldn't remember that when he first started working, he knew nothing about sales profit analysis, product development, or pricing structure. I was the one who got to work, and helped him after putting Nate to bed. I helped him search for information online and learn everything there was to know about sales. It was with my help that he slowly got better at his job. Just because I'd been a housewife for 4 years didn't mean I lost my innate ability to learn. In reality, I was better than him at everything he knew to do. During Edgar's 2-week business trip, I had to find that elusive cell phone. I knew every corner of the house like the back of my hand, so he couldn't have kept it at home. There was only one other place it could be: his office. I'd never been to his office or met any of his colleagues before. He'd said he didn't want work to affect his family. Well, he spent a third of his day at the office and could do anything he wanted during that time. I would be none the wiser. Oh right. His company. I went online and found his company's open job listings. The first was for a business assistant. The main requirements included having at least 2 years of prior work experience and a bachelor's degree. Priority would also go to unmarried candidates. Alas, I only met one of the criteria out of the 3. As I scrolled through the rest of the job listings, one in particular caught my eye. It was the listing for a cleaner. There were no age or education requirements. The cleaner would be assigned to keeping the general manager's office clean. So all that was needed was for the candidate to fulfill the task to the general manager's satisfaction. Edgar had once grumbled to me that his company's general manager was a clean freak with a strong compulsive streak. He probably had extremely high standards to meet. That suited me perfectly. After all, I had a bit of a compulsive streak myself. I might not have learned much in the last 4 years, but I was an expert when it came to cleaning and organizing things. I swiftly updated my resume to highlight the responsibilities I had as a housewife for the past 4 years. It was a success. The very next day, I was asked to come in for an interview. The representative from the HR department led me to the general manager's office on the top floor and said he would be conducting the interview himself. Edgar once told me that the general manager, Stuart Holden, was a young scion from a wealthy family who had just taken over the company's business division. He was a bold and driven man. Even from across the expansive desk, I could still sense the intimidating presence he seemed to exude by nature. You graduated with a degree from a prominent college, yet you're here to interview for a job as a cleaner? Stuart asked doubtfully. He'd gone through my resume and was now observing me with a quirked eyebrow. That's right. When it comes to cleaning, I have 4 years of experience. I'm certain I'll do a good job. I replied with the utmost sincerity. Well, show me what you can do by cleaning up my office. Once Stuart finished speaking, he exited the office, leaving his assistant, Alice Jennings, and me behind. With the powers vested in me as a detail-oriented perfectionist, I tidied up every single nook and cranny of the office. I even rearranged the books on the shelves based on their respective categories, and the knick-knacks in the corner based on their colors. The moment I was done, Stuart came back. His eyes swept across the office before landing on his neatly organized desk. He seemed both startled and satisfied with the results. Nodding to me, he said, "Not bad. You can start on Monday." I exhaled in relief. I'd succeeded in getting the job. As Alice led me back to the HR department to handle the paperwork, I heard people whispering behind me. Plenty of young and pretty women came to interview for the cleaner job that Mr. Holden is hiring for. Why did he end up choosing her? I heard Mr. Holden has exacting standards. It was obvious that all the other women only applied because they had their eyes on him. Meanwhile, this one looks like someone who's good at cleaning and doing manual labor. Thinking about how I was bare-faced and had specifically worn a loose outfit that was easy to work in, I wondered if I should thank that person for the compliment. When I got back to the house, I spoke to Noelle Yarrow, a fellow mother and neighbor of mine. We often arranged playdates for our kids. Her daughter attended the same kindergarten as Nate, and the two were good friends. I asked her to help me pick up and drop Nathan off at kindergarten every day, saying I would pay her for the help. Being the kind and friendly person she was, she readily agreed to it. After settling everything, I finally felt like a burden had been lifted. It was now time for me to tell my friend, Emma Forrest, about Edgar's cheating. I needed her help.